Most men chase freedom, but they do it with a chain in their hands. They believe that once they have enough money, enough success, enough followers or recognition, they'll finally breathe without weight. It's a silent lie, a beautifully packaged illusion sold in every ad and self-help video. The idea that freedom comes with wealth, that peace comes with control. But the truth is simpler and harder. It's not money that buys freedom. It's clarity. The modern man is drowning in noise. His phone vibrates before sunrise, his mind already running before his feet touch the ground. Messages, metrics, expectations. Everyone wants a piece of his time, his focus, his identity. He scrolls through lives that look better than his, listens to voices louder than his own, and wonders why he feels small even when he's achieving more than ever before. He's got subscriptions for everything, but no subscription for silence. He's surrounded by abundance, yet starving for direction. He works harder, thinking maybe that's the cure. Longer hours, better pay, new gadgets, new titles. But every achievement fades faster than the last. He buys moments of escape disguised as comfort. The new car, the upgraded phone, the weekend trip that looks perfect in photos but leaves him emptier when he returns. He's not chasing wealth anymore. He's chasing validation, trying to convince himself that he's still in control. But deep down, he knows the truth. He's trapped by the very things he thought would set him free. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." 2,000 years later, this truth hits harder than ever. Because we don't crave just money now. We crave meaning, belonging, certainty. We crave proof that our struggle is worth something. But every craving without clarity turns into a cage. Every pursuit without purpose becomes a prison. Freedom, real freedom, begins with knowing what matters. It begins when you sit with yourself long enough to ask, what do I actually want? Not what your parents wanted. Not what society celebrates. Not what the algorithm rewards. But you. What do you value enough to sacrifice for? What are you willing to fail for? Until you answer that, no amount of money will ever feel like enough. Because you're not free, you're just funded. Clarity doesn't come from more. It comes from less. It's not about adding layers of success. It's about peeling back everything that doesn't belong. The warrior clears his mind before battle, not because the noise is gone, but because he chooses what to focus on. The monk finds peace not by escaping the world, but by seeing through it. You don't need to quit your job or sell your things. You just need to see them for what they are, tools, not masters. Possessions, not identity. Here's a simple exercise. Today, write down 3 things that actually matter to you. Not what you think should matter, but what truly does. Then look at how you spend your time. If your daily actions don't align with those 3 things, you're not free, you're distracted. Real wealth is the ability to live in alignment with what matters most. Real freedom is waking up and knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Clarity gives direction to ambition. It transforms hustle into purpose. It takes that restless energy that keeps you scrolling and turns it into movement that means something. When you're clear, you stop comparing. You stop rushing. You stop living for everyone else's applause. You start living with a quiet strength, one that doesn't need to prove anything. Because when you know who you are and what you stand for, the world's noise fades into background static. Maybe you don't need to make more money. Maybe you just need to understand what enough looks like for you. Maybe you don't need a new goal. Maybe you just need to remember why you started. Clarity doesn't remove the struggle, it gives it meaning. And a man with meaning is unstoppable. So take a breath. Step back. The life you're trying to build might already be enough if you saw it through clearer eyes. The next time you catch yourself chasing the next thing, pause and ask, would I still want this if no one saw it? That question alone can set you free. Because in the end, freedom isn't a destination. It's a decision. It's not something you buy, it's something you understand. You can have all the money in the world and still feel caged. Or you can have almost nothing and walk with a peace that no one can take from you. The difference isn't in the size of your wallet, it's in the clarity of your mind. When the music fades, when the noise quiets, and it's just you sitting in the dark with your own thoughts, that's when you'll know you were never chasing freedom. You were chasing understanding. And once you find clarity, you'll realize you were free all along. We grew up hearing it everywhere. Get rich and you'll be free. It sounded simple, like a promise written in gold. Money equals choices. Choices equal freedom. But somewhere along the way, we started confusing freedom with indulgence. We stopped chasing purpose and started chasing distractions with price tags. We became prisoners of the hustle, working harder than ever to buy the very peace we lost in the process. Look around. The modern man is overconnected, yet deeply isolated. His calendar is full, but his soul is empty. He wakes up to an alarm that screams urgency, checks a screen before he even greets the day, and measures his worth in notifications. He's got the tools of a god and the focus of a child. Every app fights for his attention, every scroll promises satisfaction, and every moment of silence feels unbearable. He's got wealth within reach, yet he feels poorer than ever in meaning. He tells himself he's grinding for freedom, but he's not. He's grinding for escape. Escape from uncertainty, from stillness, from a haunting question that whispers, "Is this really who I want to be?" We live in an age where men build empires online but can't sit alone in a quiet room without reaching for distraction. And that's not freedom. That's dependency disguised as ambition. There's a quote from Lao Tzu that cuts through centuries. He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. Ancient words, modern truth. The problem isn't the lack of money. It's the lack of clarity about what enough actually means. When you don't define it, the world will define it for you. And their version always costs more. You'll keep chasing, keep consuming, keep filling voids that can't be filled with things. Clarity, unlike money, doesn't require effort. It requires honesty. And honesty is uncomfortable. It forces you to admit that maybe you've been chasing the wrong things. That maybe success, as the world defines it, isn't success for you. That maybe, deep down, you trade half of your achievements for peace of mind. But clarity starts there, in the confrontation between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. To gain clarity, you have to strip away everything that clouds your vision. The expectations of others, the noise of constant comparison, the belief that you must always be achieving something. You need to step outside the noise and ask a simple but terrifying question. What would my life look like if I stopped trying to prove myself? Imagine that. No performance, no image, just truth. You'd probably realize how much energy you waste trying to be seen instead of trying to be whole. The mind that's constantly seeking validation can never find peace. But the man who knows his direction doesn't need an audience. He moves quietly, with conviction. Here's a simple exercise to try today. Take out your phone and delete one thing that doesn't serve your peace. It could be an app, a chat group, a habit that keeps you restless. Something that steals more attention than it gives value. Notice how your mind resists it. That resistance is the sign of dependency. And clarity begins where dependency ends. Every man eventually reaches a point where he realizes he's been running in circles. He's been trying to arrive at a place called freedom, but the map was upside down the whole time. True freedom doesn't come from reaching the top. It comes from realizing you can stand still and still feel whole. When you are clear, you no longer chase. You attract. You choose. You control your direction instead of letting it control you. The samurai had a saying, "Victory belongs to the man who can see clearly," because clarity turns chaos into order. It allows you to fight the right battles, not every battle. And in a world that glorifies being busy, clarity is rebellion. It's the courage to say no to everything that doesn't align with your purpose. Maybe the reason you feel trapped isn't because you don't have enough money. Maybe it's because you filled your life with noise that drowns out your own voice. Maybe you're rich in distractions but poor in clarity. And until that changes, no amount of wealth will ever make you feel free. So stop trying to own more. Start trying to understand more. Ask yourself why you want the things you want. Ask yourself what freedom looks like without a dollar attached to it. Because once you define that, you'll never mistake motion for progress again. The truth is, money can buy comfort, but only clarity can buy peace. And peace, not luxury, is the ultimate form of freedom. When you have clarity, you can walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. You can look at the chaos of modern life and say, "This is not for me." That's not weakness. That's wisdom. In the silence between your thoughts, in the moments when you disconnect from the noise, you'll hear something you haven't heard in a long time yourself. That voice is your compass. It knows what matters. It knows when enough is enough. Follow it, and you'll find what every man is really searching for. Not success, not applause, but freedom through clarity. Because at the end of the day, freedom isn't about how far you can go. It's about how deeply you can see. And once you learn to see clearly, you'll realize that the world didn't need to change. You did. The lie we never question is the one we are rewarded for believing. And the most rewarded lie today is that more is always better. More money, more options, more hustle, more output, more achievement. We celebrate overload like a virtue. We train men to believe that life is a scoreboard. That to be enough, he must always be exceeding something or someone. But growth without direction is just motion. And motion without clarity is the slowest form of failure. Look at men today. They are tired in ways sleep does not fix. They are overstimulated but underfulfilled. They keep switching jobs, switching goals, switching cities, switching hobbies, switching identities, not because they are evolving, but because they don't know what they are evolving toward. They collect experiences like souvenirs, but still feel directionless. They stand in rooms full of opportunities and feel nothing but pressure. They have access to more knowledge than any generation before them, yet they feel dumber about their own lives. They can't buy anything except conviction. The modern man loads his life with inputs, news, podcasts, opinions, metrics, updates, until his own voice becomes a whisper behind everyone else's. He doesn't move with intent anymore. He reacts to the algorithm, reacts to trends, reacts to expectations. Life becomes a loop of stimulus and response. And the tragedy is not that he is overwhelmed. The tragedy is that he believes that being overwhelmed is normal. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment of it." The ancients understood what modern men have forgotten. The enemy is not the world, but the fog in the mind. Clarity was the first weapon of philosophy, because a man who cannot see clearly cannot choose correctly. And a man who cannot choose correctly cannot ever be free. When you strip the noise away, you see what was there all along. Not a shortage of time, but a shortage of direction. Not a shortage of success, but a shortage of meaning. Not a shortage of resources, but a shortage of clarity. Clarity is not an accessory to success. It is the prerequisite. Without it, everything you build becomes rubble eventually, because it was built on impulse and imitation, not intention. Now imagine the opposite. A man who knows exactly what matters. He could have half your resources and twice your freedom. He could have less money and more peace. He could own very little and still possess something you don't control over himself. That is the paradox modern men refuse to face. The most unburdened lives are lived by those who are willing to define enough early. Here is a practice. Ask yourself a question you probably never asked. If I stopped pursuing what I am pursuing right now, what would actually break? Your ego? Your image? Someone else's expectations? Or your actual life? Most men are carrying burdens they don't need, just to protect identities they don't even want. They are climbing ladders leaned against walls they never chose. Clarity burns away what is not yours. Clarity is subtraction, not addition. It is closing the doors that keep you leaking energy. It is deleting the battles that were never yours to fight. It is learning to say, with unapologetic calm, "Not for me." That sentence alone is liberation. Samurai code taught that the warrior wins before he swings. He wins because he knows which fights are his. The rest are ghosts. In a world of infinite invitations, the skill is not acceleration, but refusal. A man without clarity says yes to everything and ends buried. A man with clarity says yes rarely and moves like a blade. You do not need to remake your life. You need to see your life. You need to look at your pursuit and ask, do I want this or do I just want to be seen having it? Because if the desire collapses when the audience leaves, it was never your desire. It was borrowed applause. Modern men are not suffering from scarcity. They are suffocating in abundance without direction. They are not lost because they lack options. They are lost because they have never paused to choose. So, pause. Not someday now. Sit in a room with no noise. No music, no feeds, no commentary. Sit long enough for the withdrawal to pass. Then ask one question. If my life stayed exactly as it is, What would I regret 10 years from now? The first answer that rises, before your ego edits it, is your clarity. Money might someday give you choices, but clarity gives you command. And command is freedom. Not the freedom to do everything, but the freedom to no longer need everything. Because when clarity enters, restlessness dies. When clarity enters, envy evaporates. When clarity enters, direction arrives. And when a man has direction, he becomes someone the world cannot move easily. He becomes still in a way that looks like strength. He becomes free inside before he is free outside. And that kind of freedom cannot be bought. It must be seen. It must be named. It must be chosen. In the end, you will not regret the money you didn't make. You will regret the years you spent moving without knowing why. Clarity is the line between a life you chase and a life you inhabit. And once you learn to see, you will never again be tempted to run blind. Every man dreams of freedom, the kind where he wakes up without stress, without the weight of obligation, without the noise of 1,000 digital voices demanding his attention. But somewhere along the way, that dream gets hijacked. He starts to think that freedom lives on the other side of success. That peace is a luxury, and money is the passport. But the truth is, most men don't buy freedom when they get rich. They buy more expensive cages. The man who works 16 hours a day, chasing numbers, chasing clients, chasing relevance, doesn't realize he's running from stillness. He tells himself it's for his family, his future, his dream. And maybe it is, but beneath the surface, there's something else. Fear. Fear of losing momentum. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of stopping long enough to hear the truth echo in his own head. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. You see, we've built a culture that worships busyness. A man's worth is measured by how hard he grinds, how little he sleeps, how fast he replies, how much he produces. And yet, the same men who brag about hustle are the ones quietly breaking under the pressure of their own ambition. They don't need more motivation, they need clarity. Because without clarity, ambition is just disguised anxiety. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the timeless truth. The slave isn't the one who serves others. It's the one who serves his own confusion. The one who can't stop. The one who can't say no. The one who's addicted to movement because standing still means facing himself. Wealth doesn't free him. It fuels him. The more he earns, the more he builds, the more he spends, but the emptiness stays. Because no matter how much he adds, he never subtracts the noise. He never questions the direction. He thinks more input equals more control, when in reality, it's the opposite. The more he owns, the less he sees. Freedom, the real kind, begins when you realize that the things you thought you needed were only distractions from what you already had. It's not about gaining power. It's about regaining perspective. Freedom isn't something you acquire. It's something you uncover when the fog clears. So let's bring this closer to the real world. Imagine your life stripped of all titles, all possessions, all external validation. Who are you then? Can you still respect yourself without your job title, your income, your appearance, your followers? Because if the answer is no, then you were never free. You were hired by the identity you built. Clarity forces confrontation. It asks questions money can't answer. It demands stillness. It makes you face what you've been avoiding through noise, through work, through distraction. And yes, it's uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where freedom begins. Try this today. Choose one area of your life that feels heavy, your work, your relationships, your goals. Then ask yourself a question that cuts deep. What would this look like if it were simple? You'll be shocked how many layers fall away. How many things you thought were obligations were actually choices. Simplicity is not weakness. It's precision. It's saying, this matters. That doesn't. That's clarity. And clarity is power. The samurai practiced a discipline called mushin, the mind without distraction. It wasn't emptiness, it was focus. It was clarity under pressure. In a fight, a single thought could cost your life. But in modern life, 1,000 unexamined thoughts can cost your peace. Mushin isn't about meditation retreats or minimalist lifestyles. It's about presence. Doing one thing fully. Living one truth honestly. That's freedom. Because let's face it, men today aren't short on potential. They're short on direction. They're not lazy. They're lost. They've built engines with no steering wheels. Every day they wake up full of drive, but pointed at nothing. And the faster they go, the emptier they feel. Money amplifies that emptiness. It doesn't fix it. It gives you a louder life, but not a clearer one. And when you live loud without clarity, your achievements become noise, impressive, but meaningless. You want to feel free? Stop trying to control everything. You can't. The more you chase control, the more you lose peace. Freedom is found in acceptance, not accumulation. In choosing what to hold and what to release. You don't need to master the world, you need to master your response to it. Here's the paradox. Once you stop chasing freedom, you find it. When you stop trying to buy it, it shows up. When you stop filling your mind, it clears. That's when you realize freedom isn't an outcome, it's a lens. It's how you see everything. And when that moment hits, when you feel calm, still, unbothered by the noise, that's clarity. That's what all the ancient thinkers were trying to teach. Not detachment from life, but precision in living it. To know what matters. To know yourself. To walk lightly. You don't need to give up ambition. You just need to aim it. You don't need to renounce wealth. You just need to understand its limits. You don't need to escape life. You just need to see it clearly. Because when you finally do, when the fog lifts, when the chase stops, when you understand that freedom was never waiting at the end of the road but right beneath your feet, that's when you'll smile quietly and realize you were never trapped by your lack of wealth. You were trapped by your lack of clarity. And in that stillness, with nothing to prove, you'll feel something deeper than success peace. The kind of peace no one can sell you, no one can take from you, and no one can counterfeit. That peace, that clarity, that's freedom. Most men don't fear failure. They fear silence. The quiet moments when the noise stops and they have to face the truth about who they've become. They'll fill every second of the day with sound, podcasts, music, calls, work, caffeine, anything to drown out the voice that whispers, you don't know where you're going. Because clarity requires stillness, and stillness feels like death in a world addicted to movement. He wakes up early, not because he wants to, but because he has to. There's a job, a project, a goal, a constant pursuit. He convinces himself that freedom is waiting at the end of the next promotion, the next client, the next achievement. But every time he gets there, the finish line moves. He can't stop. He can't slow down. Because if he does, the questions come. Why am I doing this? What's it all for? And that question is terrifying because he doesn't know the answer anymore. He's achieved more than he ever thought possible, yet somehow he feels smaller. The world told him success would fill the void, but all it did was decorate it. Now he's surrounded by comfort but haunted by confusion. He's not lost in the dark, he's lost in the light. He has everything except direction. The ancient Stoics understood this paradox well. Seneca said, "No wind is favorable to the man who doesn't know where he is sailing." It's a sentence that could save modern men if they actually listened. Because that's what's missing: direction. Clarity of purpose. Without it, success becomes random. You move fast, but you move nowhere. You work hard, but you don't know why. You succeed, but it doesn't satisfy. Clarity is not about having everything figured out. It's about knowing what truly matters. It's the compass in the storm. Without it, you'll build a life that looks impressive but feels hollow. You'll decorate your prison cell with luxury and call it freedom. You'll think you've won because you've earned applause, but applause fades and emptiness echoes louder. The problem is, most men think clarity is something you stumble upon, like it just arrives one morning with coffee and motivation. It doesn't. Clarity must be earned. It requires discipline, reflection, and honesty. It's not an event, it's a practice. You gain clarity every time you confront a truth about yourself that you used to avoid. You gain it when you stop chasing what looks good and start choosing what feels right. So how do you start? Start by simplifying. Sit down tonight with a blank page and write 3 sentences. 1. What am I actually chasing right now? 2. Why am I chasing it? 3. What do I hope it gives me that I don't already have? If you answer honestly, you'll see patterns, the same fears, the same insecurities, the same illusions, repeated in different forms. That's how the mind traps you. It disguises confusion as ambition. But once you see the pattern, you can break it. The samurai had a saying, The way of the warrior is resolute acceptance of death. For them, death wasn't just physical. It was symbolic. The death of distraction, the death of confusion, the death of everything that clouds purpose. To live with clarity, you must let certain versions of yourself die. The man addicted to approval. The man obsessed with more. The man afraid of stillness. You can't find peace if you refuse to bury your noise. When you cut through the noise, you start to see that freedom was never about money. It was about control, not over others, but over yourself. The freedom to say no. The freedom to not react. The freedom to choose what matters. That's clarity. And the clearer you get, the freer you become. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing exactly why you're doing what you're doing. The same job, the same tasks, the same responsibilities, but now they're aligned. They have meaning. You're no longer reacting. You're acting with intent. That's the shift clarity creates. It turns chaos into rhythm. It turns confusion into flow. It gives weight to every action and purpose to every sacrifice. Here's something powerful. Stop measuring progress in money. Start measuring it in peace. Start asking, does this choice make my life simpler or more complicated? If it complicates your peace, it's not success, it's just noise dressed as opportunity. True progress should make you lighter, not heavier. You don't need to escape your life to find clarity. You just need to look at it with new eyes. Take inventory. What's consuming your time but giving you nothing in return? What are you holding on to that no longer aligns with who you are? The more you release, the more you'll see. The more you simplify, the more you'll feel free. When you finally see clearly, you'll notice something strange. The world slows down. The things that used to stress you lose their grip. The things that once defined you fade into perspective. You begin to understand that peace is not found in what you achieve, but in what you stop needing. So, breathe. Stop rushing. Freedom isn't out there. It's right here, buried under layers of distraction. The work isn't to chase it, it's to uncover it. Because once you do, once you strip everything back to what matters, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time yourself. And when that happens, when you stand in your own clarity, unshaken by noise, untempted by excess, you'll finally understand what all the philosophers, warriors, and wise men were pointing toward. That freedom is not the reward for success. It's the foundation of a life well lived. So let the world spin. Let others chase. You've seen through the illusion. You found what they're all searching for, but can't name. Not wealth, not power, but clarity, the quiet kind of wealth that no one can take away. And that is the truest form of freedom. Men spend their lives trying to earn their way out of a cage they built themselves. They work, they chase, they accumulate, thinking that if they stack enough accomplishments, enough commas in the bank, enough admiration in the eyes of others, the door will finally swing open. But the cage was never built of poverty or circumstance. It was built of confusion, of not knowing what they truly want, but running as if they do, of assuming freedom is a purchase rather than a perspective. Freedom is not something you reach at the end of a finish line. It is something you feel in the middle of the storm, when your mind is still and your decisions are yours. Money can reduce suffering. It can buy comfort, leverage, options time, but it cannot replace inner order. Because money without clarity multiplies chaos. It gives a louder version of the same confusion. You can live in a mansion and still live as a slave to your unrest. The modern man is restless because he is directionless. He thinks he is drowning because he has too little, when the real reason he is drowning is because he has too much, too many inputs, too many comparisons, too many expectations, too many identities he's trying to wear at once. He is overloaded with choices and starved of conviction. He is brilliant, capable, ambitious, but scattered. And scattered brilliance leads to wasted years. The Eastern proverb says, "The man who chases 2 rabbits catches none." Today's man chases 20. Career and image and reputation and validation and wealth and adventure and comfort and romance and status and security. And he can't figure out why he feels pulled apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But the modern man has turned that inner retreat into a storage room full of noise and borrowed ambitions. There is no clarity in a mind that never sits still. Clarity is brutal at first, Because it forces you to face yourself without anesthesia. It strips you of excuses, of illusions, of the narratives you hide behind. It corners you with questions you have avoided for years. What do I actually want? Who am I when I stop pretending? What matters enough to sacrifice for? What am I willing to walk away from permanently? These questions are not comfortable. They are surgical, but they cut in order to free, not to wound. And only after clarity do all the other virtues come alive. Discipline, consistency, courage, ambition. Without clarity, those traits run wild and destroy you. With clarity, they carry you straight through the noise. The difference between a man who burns out and a man who breaks through is not effort, but aim. So what does clarity look like in practice? It's not a grand revelation. It's a constant refinement. It is the daily act of removing what does not belong. It is noticing which desires are yours and which are inherited. It is identifying which pursuits energize you and which drain you. Clarity is subtraction, the art of deleting the unnecessary to reveal the essential. Try this. Take inventory of your life in 3 columns. Column 1, what I do daily. Column 2, what I actually value. Column 3, where they overlap. Everything in column 1 that does not land in column 3 is what is stealing your peace. That is not a logistical problem. That is a clarity problem. And it is solvable not by adding, but by eliminating. Because once you know what you stand for, the world loses its power to push you. You stop being yanked by trends, by envy, by approval. You begin to live instead of react. And that is what men are starving for, not success, but self-possession. To wake and know why the day matters. To work and know who you're becoming through it. To say no with conviction and yes without guilt. The samurai believed the battle is won before the sword is drawn, because a man with clarity cannot be disoriented. Modern life is the opposite. Men draw swords without even knowing the reason for the fight. They fight because everyone else is fighting. That is not freedom. That is drift wearing armor. Clarity gives you permission to disappoint the world in order to be loyal to yourself. It lets you walk away from money that costs your peace, from relationships that dilute your direction, from goals that no longer fit the man you are becoming. Clarity is the filter that keeps your life aligned instead of bloated. And here is the paradox you must accept. The moment you stop chasing freedom outside of you, you begin to feel it inside of you. Freedom is not what changes when you earn more. Freedom is what changes when you want less, but want it deeply. When your life is narrowed to the few things worth doing, worth holding, worth suffering for, you stop feeling trapped. You are no longer pulled. You move with a calm that cannot be bought. Eventually, every man discovers this truth, either early by honesty or late by regret. Money without clarity is a burden. Achievement without clarity is a treadmill. Progress without clarity is illusion. But clarity, even without wealth, is a foundation that cannot be shaken. A man with clarity can rebuild his life from zero. A man without clarity can destroy a fortune in a year. Clarity is the hinge. So, breathe. Remove the noise. Stand still long enough to see. The freedom you are chasing is not waiting at the end of a road you have not reached yet. It is waiting beneath the fog you refuse to clear. Your life does not change when you earn more. It changes when you finally understand what you are earning toward. And when that moment comes, when you trade the hunger for more for the discipline of meaning, you will see the lie dissolve. You will know, not just intellectually but viscerally, that money never bought freedom. Clarity did. Clarity always did. And that realization is the true beginning of a different life. A life with direction, with peace, with inner stillness that no amount of noise can touch. A life that finally feels like yours.